The world is sick, but we are the doctors.
Cool, man. Thanks so much for jumping in so short notice.
Absolutely, my big pleasure to do this.
Yeah, I mean, when we do these festivals, you know, it's basically a two-man job. So trying to remember things and get to everything, it's just not thought, can we just take a chance and see if I can get hold of you, and hey, there we go.
I know, I'm also running a festival here in Finland. It's called Timo Film Festival. Well, I'm running it, but I'm part of the team organizing it. It's a very small team, and it's like a gazillion little things that need to be taken in consideration when you actually want to get a festival going.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. What type of festival is it?
It's kind of a countryside festival, actually. We have a very beautiful countryside area over here in Huhtamo, and we're sort of organizing that in a way that we're bringing there a huge variety of films, from like underground horror films from wherever around the world to the bigger sort of American blockbusters, and but it's more about the sort of the atmosphere. The whole thing than necessarily the selection. I mean, the films are always good, but I think it's the quite unique sort of Finnish countryside experience, which is not very typical for film festivals, and we take that and run with it.
Cool, man. Hope it goes well. When is it set for?
No, it was already a couple of weeks ago. And,
okay.
Yeah, and we do it every 2 years. So.
Okay. You know, we initially started our Horrorfest Film Festival over Halloween time. It's our 17th one this year.
Okay.
In 2009, because we ended up getting so many sort of sci-fi, fantasy, and animation related submissions that we couldn't really. It maybe had some horror elements, or maybe it was just not horror at all. So we just decided we have to just start a festival to cater for those specific genre variants. And so 2009 we started CELLUDROID. The first movie we showed was District 9. So
okay, well, I mean that goes.
Hopefully we'll get to do District 10 as well. We'll see how that goes.
Well, let's see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit.
Yeah. Now, so the first Iron Sky we screened, I think, was the same year that it released.
That'll be 2012.
Yeah, I think it was Stealth then handling it.
Yeah, Stealth was handling it.
It's now Myriad.
It's now a Myriad. Yeah.
So just to jump in with, you know, how did your love of filmmaking start?
Well, I guess I was never really like sure of what kind of. I always knew that I wanted to do some sort of audio visual, some sort of a storytelling thing, but I never kind of knew whether it'd be like acting or be maybe even theater. I used to do live role playing at that time, so I was kind of interested in the theater side of things as well, and then or writing music or being in a band. The films kind of came together from a couple of sources. I think originally I got really interested in filmmaking through watching David Lynch stuff like Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me, and obviously all of his movies. And that sort of I guess gave me the idea that it doesn't have to be anything specific. You can make art out of what's in your brain, no matter what's in there. And then at the same time, I found out that a friend of mine was working on this kind of a Star Trek spoof called Star Wreck, and they were looking for a director. And I had a very loud voice, so I fit the bill perfectly, right? That really was the only thing that was the original reason why I became the director. But eventually, obviously, I got into the job and I started to teach myself and read more about what is filmmaking and how it works and all that, and that became sort of my thing in the end.
Cool. And how did everything lead into the very first Iron Sky?
Well, like I said, the first thing was really this Star Trek spoof. It was a feature-length film, Star Trek in the Beginning, and that was released in 2005. For 7 years, for zero budget. I remember driving with my bicycle through the snowy Finland to my friend's place every day, back and forth, for 7 years, and it was quite terrible. The conditions he had his little flat where we were doing this. We had a big, we had a blue screen over there, and that's basically it. And we did it for 7 years, and then we put the film out in 2005, and it happened to be the first ever released film on the internet. First ever feature-length film that was released on the internet. It was 2005, so it was quite early days of internet, sort of bigger amounts of internet video. So that became quite popular, worldwide popular actually, and based on that popularity, we then found our calling into continue filmmaking, and then we had this idea. We were in a sauna in Finland, and a friend of mine had this idea that what if we make another movie? If we make another movie, it should be about Nazis on the dark side of the moon. And then obviously we love that idea because it's quite crazy and something that hasn't been done before. And yeah, we just decided that, okay, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. We gotta do it right then, and that's how we started to work on it.
From the dark side of the moon, and we come in peace.
Who are these guys anyway?
Nazis from the moon.
That's too much.
Obviously, crowdfunding played a big role in that as well.
Absolutely. So being a filmmaker in Finland, never easy. Being a science fiction filmmaker in Finland, even harder. Being a first-time professional science fiction filmmaker, trying to raise the biggest budget ever raised for a Finnish movie, not easy. So we did turn over to the community, because we knew that ever since we started to work on the Star Trek, we had always been working with the internet community quite closely. And with Iron Sky, we wanted to go further, and we wanted to make something that's like takes the full advantage of the fact that we have this big fan base on the internet and a lot of interest for this film. So we went over and started to talk with the people and sort of communicate with them and introduce our idea. And eventually, when it came to the problem where we were really standing on the edge of whether we're ever going to be able to make this movie, or are we gonna, or we will make this movie, but everything was dependent on if we're going to get the money now or not. Then we turned over to the fans and the community and said that, okay, guys, this is the situation. If you want to see this film happening, we're going to need to start a crowdfunding campaign. And that had never been done really before on that scale ever before. Yeah. I mean, there had been some tryouts on crowdfunding here and there, but this was definitely kind of the first time it was made on a wider and bigger scale. And so obviously that was also, because of it was kind of newsworthy item as itself, but the whole word of the Iron Sky, Nazis on the Moon from Finland, crowdfunding, that started to spread all over the world, and we started to get people chipping in from basically almost every country you can imagine. Yeah,
and obviously, I mean, it is very much also humorous and tongue-in-cheek, but do you think that if you made that today, it would have been more difficult? People are far more sensitive about stupid things.
Well, I would say I think it's good that people are sensitive, and I think it's part of the learning process of becoming a human, and I think we're on that way. And the question whether or not Iron Sky would be vastly different, I think maybe yes. And I think it's not so much about what's going on around the world and sort of what's allowed to be spoken or what's not allowed to be spoken. I think not so much about that. It's because I've also learned a little bit about, maybe I have a little bit wider worldview now. So that means that some of the things that I tackle in Iron Sky, I probably would have gone a little bit smoother on them. So in a way, I think it's good that I didn't know. The less you know, the better in that sense. Because at the same time, I do watch Iron Sky, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I may not be able to do it exactly this way, next time, but I'm glad I did it this way, because again, it's still a film which has heart in the right place, and the moral compass is on the right place. And when it comes to comedy, I think it was well said by somebody. I think it could have been Louis C.K., who said that, or somebody else, that the comedy, the thing about comedy is that there is a certain line, and the comedy person who's making comedy, your job is to walk on that line. But you need to know which side of the line you're going to walk, but you need to walk on that line. Now, what happens when time passes on that line gets dragged to a certain direction? And it might leave you on this side because you can't change your movie anymore, but the line is dragged. But at the same time, looking back and sort of going ahead and blaming, like, you did so much, you said something that is not appropriate. Yes, it's not appropriate now. I wouldn't say it now. Back then, that was definitely fine. And I could do that, say that, and make that kind of a joke. But at the same time, I think it's all about the fact that if you have the moral compass in the right place, direct in the right place, you should be able and free to do and express yourself in your comedy, no matter what the general sort of atmosphere of the world is.
Yeah. And what was the best experience and the worst experience making the first Iron Sky?
Well, I guess it's quite easy to answer. The best experience, that was definitely Berlin Film Festival 2012. We had been chosen into the very, very prestigious Panorama series, which is usually focused on European sort of high-end sort of art movies. And then for whatever reason, we were there. And that we did feel a little bit out of place. Also, we're making a joke and comedy about Nazis, and we're in Berlin Film Festival screening the film for the very first time to an audience. So we had absolutely no idea how it's going to go down. I really remember sitting down on that chair. There was like 2,000 people in the theater. It's a beautiful, beautiful theater. And it's very prestigious. So there was like a nice introduction, and everybody was wearing a suit, and everything was so very, very posh. And I just remember sitting down on the chair and just, crunching the edge of the chair, like, all right, this is how I die. And then the whole film started to roll, and like bit by bit, you started to get those beats, those laughs, those jokes like landing, and people started to get warm and understand that we're not made, because I felt there was this tension in the air. Like, are you guys gonna make fun of the Nazi in the wrong way? Are you gonna make, do you know what you're doing? And bit by bit, the audience started to know that, yeah, we actually do know what we're doing, because we did our homework in order to make a movie which actually ridiculous Nazi, but doesn't diminish the terrors and the crimes that they committed. So that sort of finding that was very important for me for the film. So anyway, seeing that unfolding in the theater was definitely the best. And I think the worst was definitely, we're running down, we were running out of money. We didn't have any support for the movie. This is halfway through the production process. And I remember we were in, I guess in Frankfurt, and it was raining sleet, and we were looking for some locations, and we knew that we had no idea if we're ever going to make this movie. And then for some reason we had a script of the movie, but we were not sure if we were able to finance that. So we had asked another script from another writer from the same topic. And we had just received a script, and it was terrible. It was terrible. I hated absolutely everything about that script. And just going through those debates back and then, like, you don't know if you're going to make this. And then somebody saying, like, if you make this other script, maybe it's easier. It's like, I don't wanna. I know what I want to make. I cannot do that. It was my first that kind of professional film, so I didn't really know all the ins and outs of the business and everything. I was really devastated. But eventually, that other script went away anyway because it was terrible. And then bit by bit, around that time, also the tide started to turn for us. We started to get financing in, and then the crowdfunding came in, and we were able to make the film.
Cool. And the legendary Udo Kier. I mean, I can't imagine you thought of anyone else for the role.
No, it was really in the same. There's basically a couple of elements that we knew on the day when we came up with the idea about Iron Sky. So, like I said, we were sitting in a sauna after a long day, and a friend of mine suggested Nazis on the Moon. Sounds like a fun topic. Let's do that. And then I said, if we do Nazis on the Moon, we have to have Udo Kier to play the Hitler or somebody like that. We need to have Laibach to do the music, which is a Slovenian band, which I knew. And then we need to have a swastika-shaped fortress on the dark side of the moon. And those were the sort of the first guiding lights that, okay, this is where we're gonna go. And then luckily all of those people, I mean, usually when you start making a movie, you dream of something and then it turns out a little different, but this was, we were able to get everything we wanted on that premise. So that was really nice.
And how did you get Laibach to do the soundtrack? Have you had contact with him before, or? No, I hadn't. I've been their big fan ever since day zero. Well, not days, but for a long time. And I always enjoyed their style. And I remember when I started to work on Iron Sky, I used to play their album Volk quite a lot, and it has a beautiful song called Germania, which I strongly recommend. And that sort of melancholic sound gave the overall feeling and vibe to the whole thing. So even Iron Sky is kind of a comedy and everything. I think there is a certain level of melancholy through the whole movie. Now, what I did was I saw that Laibach is coming to my town for a show. So I prepared like a big pack of stuff about Iron Sky. I made a t-shirt, I sent we had a little script, like a short synopsis. I sent out some graphics and visuals and everything. I made it like a nice package to them. And I gave it I went to the show and I gave it to the guy at the counter. I said, oh, could you take this to the backstage? And apparently he never did, showed it away. So I was, oh my God, that's not good. And I was talking about this a year later to a film producer, a friend of mine. And he said that, you know what, I know somebody from Slovenia. He contacted Slovenia, another producer in Slovenia said, yeah, I know Laibach. They share an office in the same, they have their band, practice stage in the same building as I am. I'll just ask them. And that's how it, turned out eventually. But yeah. Nice. And just, did you initially just, obviously, going into a movie, you don't know if you're actually going to be able to complete it or if you get all the funding for it. So did you decide you're going to make this movie as one contained thing, or did you have in the back of your mind that if it's successful, you could go on to do some more sequels?
It was, yeah. There was always three parts in my head. I always knew that it's going to be Nazis on the Moon, then it's going to be about Hollow Earth, and third is going to be Communists on Mars. That was, which I always knew that I want to do the movies about. So yeah, Nazis on the Moon happened, and then the producers were asking like, all right, so what's the next? I said, it's easy. It's Hollow Earth. I know it. I have the topic here right in my mind. I know the story. We just need to get the money together.
Wow, the Holy Grail, huh?
And now we're after that. Now we're setting up together the story about Communists on Mars. So
cool. And the arc, it's not a sequel as such. Is it just
no? It's
a spin-off.
You would call it's a spin-off or something. Like, it doesn't really have anything to do with Iron Sky. To be really honest, I mean, it has some things. I mean, it's talking about a worldwide conspiracy. It's talking about Illuminati. Like in Iron Sky 1, we're talking about the Nazis in the Moon conspiracy, and in the coming race, we're talking about the Hollow Earth conspiracy. With the Ark, we're talking about the Illuminati conspiracy. But it's made for in Chinese language for Chinese audience. So that's basically the whole gist of it. And I got invited to do that movie specifically. There already was a script which involved Illuminati going to the moon and elements like that. So I fell in love with that script, and I said that, yeah, I'm happy to do that if I can tweak it around to make it fit a little bit more into my view. But at the same time, I was like quite clear that it isn't, and it's not even attempting to be like Iron Sky kind of crazy stuff. It's a little bit more dramatic, you would say.
Okay. Is there a release date for that yet?
No, there's no. We are right now putting the post-production together. We had a bit of a hiccup on that road because of the COVID, but it's resuming now. So it's hopefully starting to find the release date, but unfortunately I don't have that.
Cool. And just you know, obviously the marketing guys or everyone, they would come up with plans to how to sell the movie to an audience. But now, if you had to, what would you want an audience to know or take away from your Iron Sky movies?
Well, I think I looking back right now, which I didn't know back then, was that they're not movies, they're actually documentaries. and that's something that I should have used that more as a marketing trend. It's like, this is not a movie, this is it's a feature-length documentary which has maybe been dramatized a little bit, but this is what happens in the world. it's not like I made it up, it's just there. No, but it's no, obviously I am joking on that, but I think I should have used that as a marketing method back then, but of course I didn't know back then.
Kind of like the Blair Witch Project did.
Yeah, exactly, like make it. But the thing is, like, I didn't know it back then. But I just thought that it's a crazy story, which will never happen. You know, it'll never come true. And there's been quite a lot of things that have been quite spot on, like ever since Trump came into power. There's been quite a lot of things that actually fit quite well to the story of Iron Sky. Obviously, there's no Nazis on the moon, but you know, the whole sort of fascist uprising in United States and all that. It's quite striking.
Yeah. And how did the Jeepers Creepers job come around?
That was after Iron Sky, The Coming Race was released. There was obviously a lot of discussions on what to do next, and my producer Tero Kaukuma, he had met this producer Jake Seal, who had the IP rights for the Jeepers Creepers, and he was looking for a director, and he needed somebody who can also handle visual effects, which I can do, and wanted to breathe some fresh air into the genre or the franchise, because obviously Jeepers Creepers is the first one was made in 2001, and it's made by a director who's not working anymore for a bunch of good reasons, and sort of it was sort of lying in the ditch, the whole thing. So what he wanted to do was then to find somebody who can sort of pick it up and find a new angle to the whole thing, and try to sort of reapproach and also make it something that's fit for you know, horror kids of today, not the people of, you know, 20 years ago. So based on that, we started to build the franchise. I mean, build the story up and make it something. And yeah, it was that was about a year ago when we really started to shoot the movie. I flew over to Louisiana, actually first to Dubai, because I couldn't fly directly to Louisiana because of COVID. So I stayed 2 weeks in Dubai, and then we started to shoot, I think in October. Yeah, we shot in Louisiana, then came over to UK, and shot the big part of the movie in UK. We had actually a South African production designer, Sivo Bluk.
Okay.
Good guy. But yeah, that's how it is. And right now we're putting it together, like finishing the movie, and hopefully, I don't know the release date yet, or I don't have the trailer or anything now at this point, but you know, it's coming together nicely.
Cool. Let's chat about for the next Horrorfest.
Mhm.
Screen it down here.
Say again?
I say we must chat about it for the next Horrorfest festival down here. So we can screen
Oh
it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and you have to invite me.
Do that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I want
And so-
to come over.
Yeah. So then, so now, are you currently still writing the Russians on Mars, or is it, how far are you with
Yeah,
that?
it's currently in that sort of process. So I can't say that it's very far. Obviously, I was quite distracted with the creepers for quite a while,
Yeah.
and I'm still sort of in that zone. But we started to put together pieces that make it happen, and it's very possible that we're not actually making it into a feature movie, but actually a TV show, like a TV series. What do you call it?
Yeah.
A TV series, like a streamer series and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because the story seems to be sort of, you know, ballooning out of its proportions all the time, and I find myself harder and harder to contain it, and I kind of want to tell it a little bit in a bigger picture, and that means that TV show or TV series might have because it has a longer lifetime, a longer runtime, so you can tell maybe a little bit more stories. But depends, you know, it all in the end, it all comes down to money. Like, where do we get the money, and what kind of distribution we're going to get for that, and then eventually, like, what's the story with that, and we're not really far with that yet, but one day we will.
Cool. Looking forward to that. Cool. Just
Yeah.
before we wrap up, just want to chat about, you know, kind of movies that you like personally. I know it's so difficult. I can never make a top 3, let alone a top 10, let alone a top 3 list of any, say, sci-fi movie, horror movie, or just movies in general. I mean, just David Lynch movies, I'll need a top 10 list just for those, or David Cronenberg, or, you know, all those favorites. But what would you say? What are your favorite movies in general, and specifically sci-fi and horror?
Right. So I think in general, and I'm also not very good in putting those lists together, but I always do think some of the movies that I enjoyed the most is definitely Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, the David Lynch film. Then, you know, a bunch of other Lynch movies for sure. But giving other names, there's another film. It's called Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which is a kind of rock musical / trans story. Really like that one, and you know, I come back to that quite a lot. I think it's a beautiful thing, and if I ever were to make a musical, I would sort of try to do something along those lines, but not in the plans right now. And then no matter what I do, it's always Alien is definitely on that, you know, very, very high on that list. Alien, Blade Runner, sort of, that's the kind of holy couple of sci-fi for me. And when it comes to horror, that's a trickier kind of. Horror is kind of the one that I've seen the most, but really to pick out the very, very best horror movies, that's a little, it's a dangerous, treacherous road.
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't know if I could say like Hellraiser probably is something that I come back to often, but it's so vast and so different, also different purposes, that I don't even want to put them in a list.
Yeah.
But you know, those are some of my favorite movies, I would say.
Cool. Thanks, man. I'm so glad, like I said, so glad we could do this on such short notice.
Absolutely, no, it's really fun.
Iron Sky, the first and the second one screen today. We still have another day. We've got the one in the afternoon and second one in the evening. So we'll try and get people to come out and watch it and enjoy it, and let us know what they thought.
All right. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Enjoy your festival, and let's stay in touch. And hopefully one day I'll make my way over there as well.
That'll be great. Thanks, man.
All right. Good. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Bye bye.